Life on Earth is impossible without the sun. All life forms rely on sunlight or the energy that plants produce thanks to this huge ball of burning gas. But what if one day our star just turned off? Or perhaps we're somewhere out there in the universe on a planet with no sun at all. Could we survive? Well, it would be tough, but not necessarily impossible. So long as we had some preparation, it may just be possible for human beings to survive on a planet with no sun. Here's why. It is hard to imagine what a planet without a sun would look like because most of the planets in our solar system orbit around our bright yellow dwarf star. Some are further away and so are much colder. Others are closer and have scorching temperatures. If you were to find a planet that didn't have a sun, then chances are it would be really cold. Now, some people may say that there is no such thing as a planet without a sun because all planets in the universe must revolve around a star. However, there are more things to consider. A planet could have formed without ever having a star nearby, or maybe it was once part of another solar system that was destroyed by a supernova. And also, the definition of a planet does not require it to orbit a star. Pluto, for example, doesn't orbit the sun, but instead revolves around the planet Neptune. It still receives plenty of sunlight though, so it wouldn't be suitable for our hypothetical situation. The lack of sunlight would be the biggest problem when trying to live on a planet that doesn't have a sun. Plants need light for photosynthesis. Without it, they will die. As a result, animals that eat these plants would also die. Of course, not all plants need the same amount of sunlight. Some plants growing in the shade of tall trees can still thrive without being in direct sunlight. Maybe if we could somehow grow plants that could survive with very little sunlight, food would not be a problem. But the biggest issue would be temperature. Most animals, including us humans, are warm-blooded, meaning we generate our own body heat. However, we need to keep warm. If it's too cold, then we could die. For this reason, many people live in homes with heating systems and wear warm clothing when outside. When you enter a hot tub, 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it only feels comfortable after about 15 minutes or so. Any longer and you may start to feel overheated. This means that even though we're warm-blooded, we still can't survive in extremely high temperatures for too long. So if we were living on a planet with no sun, then we'd need some other source of heat. Perhaps we could use geothermal energy, which is heat from the inside of the Earth. On Earth, geothermal energy is used to create power in places like Iceland. But would it be enough to keep us alive? Perhaps we do need to move underground and build enormous domes to protect us from the freezing temperatures above. This may sound like a crazy idea, but we already do something similar. The Biosphere 2 project was an attempt to build an enclosed, self-sustaining environment to see if we could live off the land. Built in Arizona in the 1990s, this huge structure is still inhabited today. It contains everything needed to support life, including plants, animals, and humans. It was designed to allow scientists to study how ecosystems work while sealed off from the outside world. In theory, this means that Biosphere 2 could theoretically support life indefinitely. However, it has been reported that there were issues with carbon dioxide levels and the air conditioning broke down on several occasions, requiring engineers to come in and fix it. So although it is possible that we could live on a planet with no sun in a dome-like structure, we need a way to keep the air fresh and warm. If we assume that this planet with no sun does have geothermal energy, then this could be used to power our homes. Geothermal power plants use steam produced from the Earth's heat to turn turbines and create electricity. These power plants are currently used in countries like El Salvador and the Philippines to provide cheap renewable energy. In areas with high volcanic activity, geothermal energy can provide almost limitless energy as long as the planet has sufficient internal heat. The deeper underground we go, the hotter it gets. So a planet with no sun may actually be quite hot below the surface. Maybe if we could drill deep enough, we could get enough heat to power our entire civilization. Of course, there would be problems. Hot rocks deep inside the Earth contain radioactive elements that could be released through drilling. Also, the crust of the planet would eventually be reached, at which point the heat would stop. Luckily, there's no need to worry about this because, according to scientists, the core of the Earth will eventually stop producing enough heat to sustain life on Earth. This may seem far into the future, billions of years from now, but eventually the Earth will become a frozen wasteland. Perhaps we could escape to a different planet that doesn't have a sun, but has lots of geothermal energy. However, this raises another issue: radiation. The sun produces a magnetic field that helps to deflect dangerous cosmic rays. Without our star, our planet would be bombarded by radiation from space. The atmosphere would soon become filled with dangerous particles that would kill most living things. Even worse, the ozone layer, which protects us from the sun's ultraviolet radiation, would disappear, leading to global destruction. One way we could overcome this problem by building giant magnetic shields around our planet. While this sounds like science fiction, scientists believe it as possible that natural gas leaks from the planet's core could create a magnetic field that deflects cosmic rays. This is thought to be how Jupiter's moon Europa is protected from harmful radiation. Europa doesn't have its own magnetic field, but because Jupiter is a gas giant, it has a huge magnetic field that extends far beyond its atmosphere and envelops many of its moons, including Europa. But let's think even bigger. Let's imagine that we don't have a whole planet to ourselves. What if we tried to survive on a star? It may sound crazy, but scientists have calculated that it is possible to live on the surface of a red dwarf. Red dwarfs are small stars that are less massive than our sun. They have weak magnetic fields, meaning that they don't blast their surface with deadly radiation. They also don't produce strong stellar winds, which can destroy a planet's atmosphere. Scientists have determined that living on the surface of a red dwarf is possible. But there's one major problem: it's extremely cold. Temperatures on red dwarfs range between 2,000 and 3,000 Kelvin. This is about 10 times colder than the surface of our sun. Although it would be warm enough to melt lead, the strong gravity would mean that we'd be crushed into pancakes. Red dwarfs can be up to 30 times more massive than our sun, meaning that the gravity on the surface of these stars is far greater than Earth. Our bodies aren't used to such high gravity, so we'd probably be utterly crushed. However, it is possible that with some form of protection, we could survive on the surface of a red dwarf. If we created a dome on such a star, then we could protect ourselves from the crushing gravity. The atmosphere inside the dome could be made breathable and the temperature manageable. But how big would this dome need to be? Stars are gigantic, but red dwarfs are much smaller than our sun. They have diameters ranging between 25 and 85% of that of the sun. This means that a dome only needs to be around 700 kilometers in diameter to enclose the entire star. Of course, this is just the size of the base. The dome would need to be hundreds of thousands of kilometers high to completely surround the star. Maybe one day we'll be able to live on planets or stars that don't have suns. But for now, we're pretty lucky that our sun is exactly the right size to support life on Earth. If it were bigger or smaller, then life as we know it simply couldn't exist. So what do you think? Do you think humans could survive on a planet with no sun? If so, how would you go about doing it? Please leave your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to watch this next one.